Good afternoon, welcome along to Training Tuesday. My name's James and we are finishing our QuickQ month this week. So all through November we've been looking at various parts of QuickQ. We started the month by looking at the basics of getting a show going with QuickQ. Then we've done QuickQ for live shows, we've done QuickQ for theatre, studio, etc. And today we're going to be looking at QuickQ for installation. We do have also an opportunity to take questions throughout, so these are completely live sessions. As I always say, anything can happen in these sessions. So do feel free to ask questions of a chat both on YouTube and on Facebook. Hello to the usual faces out there. Great to have you with us. Mario, Tommy, Mehmet, who else have we got on YouTube there? In fact, we've even got questions in there. First question of the day is it possible to have a fader ignore the Grandmaster? If so, how? Tommy or Steve, you've already replied there and say you think that feature is only available on a Magic Q. Absolutely right. That is a Magic Q feature to do that. So on a QuickQ, you can't have a fader or playback, ignore the Grandmaster. You can turn the Grandmaster off so it doesn't do anything, so you can disable that, but you cannot turn off individual Q stacks or playbacks listening to the Grandmaster. So we're going to be looking at mainly QuickQ for installations today. Just to let you know, next week, so we're into December. How are we into December already in the run up to Christmas? But next week's session, in the first week of December, so on the 2nd next week, 2nd of December, we're going to be looking at moving from QuickQ into Magic Q and kind of how you transition a show from QuickQ to Magic Q, how you can take that knowledge that you've got from QuickQ month this month and how it could grow with you into Magic Q when and if you are ready. So bear that in mind, that's next week's session, so we'll get into more of the Magic Q, QuickQ crossover bits next week. Today we're focused on QuickQ for installations. What have I got here? Well, I've got myself a QuickQ 20 console. I've got myself a Genetics GN5 node here, and also have one of our brand new 10-scene contact devices here. We're going to chat a little bit about this and how this works with a QuickQ system, how it can work with other products as well a bit later on. But first off, we're going to dive into a software and talk about some installs type features that are within the QuickQ software. So as we've covered already this month in QuickQ, we've done already the basics of how to make a show, how to start a new show, how to patch some fixtures, how to store cues, chases, etc. We looked at effects and things in our earlier weeks. So we're really going to focus on some install type features today. So if we jump into the software on my screen here now, you can see I'm just running a demo show here, running the QuickQ Designer software available on Windows or Mac. Now, if you are watching this and it's the first time we've looked at QuickQ, I would advise you go back later on and look at some of our old Training Tuesdays through this month. Look at the first week where we went through the basics of starting a show, then look at the second week where we did it for live shows, and last week's we're looking at more theatre and studio style programming. So do go back and look at that if this is looking a bit confusing at this point, where we do cover the basics. So we're going to assume at this point everyone's comfortable recording the basics of cues, etc. at the moment. So some install type features. Well, of course, QuickQ is very powerful in its application, in its market. Yes, you know, we've covered using it for theatre shows, for sort of in a school, in the studio, and for small live shows. But it can be used for installation as well. We have products like our QuickQ Rack and our QuickQ DIN, which are 19-inch rack mount versions of a console. They are the full console in the box, just don't have a screen and faders, but you can do all the programming. They run all the software, or you can program here with the designer software, save a show, load it onto the rack or DIN, either or. So some install type things. If we go to the burger menu up on the top right here, the 3-line menu here, what have we got in our settings here? Well, we're going to cover some of these windows here, things like 10-scene, events, and such like here. So under the events window, if we start off in here, under events we can have things based on time and date. And now you can see here it's saying to me location not set, unable to calculate sunrise and sunset times. So it is possible for you to set the location. So you can see here my location is set to English, and it's actually pulling my system time. It's 9 minutes past 4 on the 25th of November. It's pulling that from the clock on my laptop. Now, if I was doing that on a console, if I went to events here and hit that button, will allow me to actually take me to settings in the console where I could set the time and date of QuickQ. On the designer software, it will always pull it from the system time of the PC or the Mac if you're running on Mac. But you can use this button here to go to settings and set it if you're on an actual console. So we can have time of day or scheduled type events, we'd call them. You can add these by using the plus key here. And we can have things happen at particular times of day and repeat on repetition. So I could say, actually, I want this thing to happen, and you can see everything's selected at the moment. I can deselect here, and I could say I want my event to happen on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but not Sunday and Monday. Maybe my venue's not open on Sunday and Monday. And I can choose then, okay, either happen once, so at a specific time, and I can use the tumblers here to pick a time. Okay, Training Tuesday started at 16:09. By the time I finish talking through this, it's going to probably be about 16:12. So if we scroll our tumblers here, and I'll take it to say 16, let's go lucky 13 here, and 0 seconds, you can see I've set an everyday event to happen on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 16:13. I can set the schedule, and now I can choose the action of what I want to happen there. And the action could be things like turning on something, toggling something, turning off something. I can have another one to turn something off, or I can have emergency states. Now we can get into emergency a bit later on. So I might say actually turn on, and then I'm going to say turn on something, and I need to choose what that something might be. Oh, I clicked off the window, apologies. So I'm going to set that back as it was. Set my tumbler back forward, like so, and let's go for 16:14. There we go. Set schedule, turn on, set action, and you can see it's set that on there. At the moment it says no action because it doesn't actually set the action time, but let's talk about some of the other things we can do. So we can either have a once a day, or I could say every day, so negate me from actually having to pick the day. It just happens every day. Every hour, so I can have something happen, okay, once every hour, okay, at whatever time, minutes and seconds past the hour, do that thing. I can do sunrise or sunset, and this is based on the console knowing the longitude and latitude. Of course, it takes it from a system if I'm on PC. Or I can take it on sunset time as well, again, based on the longitude and latitude of where the console is. On startup of the console, when it's started up, so when I start up the software, set the schedule, then I could say, okay, turn on something. So I'm going to set turn on, and then I can choose a thing and I can get it to do it. So I can have things based on, or I could say when I go and send the shutdown command, maybe I've got that tech that always forgets to lamp off. I've got some discharge things, set the schedule. So when I shut down the console, set my action, and it can do a thing. Now, you can see the edit action here where I can choose what it's doing. So I could say actually turn on, and I could say choose to turn on that playback there, set the action, and you can see on shutdown it's going to turn on playback 1 main. This one that happened at 16:14, we're not quite there yet. Can I get there in time? Double click, and I can set action on that. Show items here, and I can tell it to turn on something, and I could say that one there, set. Did I make it in time? May have just made it in time, so turn on playback 3 at 16:14. If we get there in a moment, you should see it will turn on playback 14. Now you won't see the fader move, you'll just see the blue change a little bit in colour. So you've got things like scheduled events there. 1 minute sounds like a very long time when we're doing a Training Tuesday, but I'll leave that ticking along in the background for now. So we've got scheduled events, things based on time of day that can happen on a, as we see, on startup, on shutdown, at specific times, etc. there. We've also got this thing called 10 scene here, and there you go, right on cue, 16:14, playback 3 activated. We saw it turn on, you can see the lights came on my visualizer. So there's our events. We can also have what we call 10 scene. Now 10 scene came about with this concept of initially things like our 10 scene wall plates. So if you look on the ChamSys website, you'll see we've got things like the 10 scene button stations, 10 button stations. They connect directly to our QuickQ rack and our QuickQ DIN, and using our gateway interface, the Genetics gateway box, you can connect the wall plates into a console or use a node. Our Genetics GN5 and GN10 nodes have got this 10 scene port on them, allowing me to connect my 10 scene devices into the system. Now we have the 10 scene wall plates. As of a few months ago, we now have this box called the Genetics 10 scene contact box, which is a 10 contact trigger box. Now you see on the front it's got the 10 buttons. It's designed to kind of be mounted for an installation purpose, so hidden in the control room. It's a DIN rail mountable box, and it has the 10 scene buttons on the front of it. You may or may not be able to see on the camera, some of these are blue at the moment. I've hooked this up to the console at the moment, and it's set to control my main 10 playbacks. I could have it set to control execute items. This is ideable, and you can have up to 10 of these boxes, so 100 different triggers into the system, triggering different things with a QuickQ. Now, if I press the buttons on the front, you can see it's turning on and off. You may not be able to see on the camera there, it's turning on and off playbacks on the console. You can probably see the buttons are turning red and blue here. The idea of this box is these are just test buttons for me to program it away, but very simply, contacts. It's got just simple open-close contacts, so 10 of them on the bottom of it, and you can wire it into anything you like with just a simple open-close. So you could put in a simple light switch in a room. You could have an occupancy sensor, you could have a pressure pad or something that's just an open-close device, and that can trigger something within the software. Now we'll take a look at actually how you can set that up. I've told you can do triggers. How do you do that? Well, if we dive back into the QuickQ software here, I'm in the burger menu or main menu, and I've gone to 10 scene here, and I've gone to my 10 scene window. We can choose what the 10 scene is controlling. So I can have 10 scene just turning off my 10 playbacks. In that mode, I only can turn 10 things on and off. They could be single cues, could be chases, could be cue stacks, but it's just toggling them on and off. It's literally almost like bringing the fader up and down. It's just toggling them on and off. We also have this option here that says 10 scene toggles executes 1 to 10 on and off. In that mode, if I go to my execute window is just a simple grid where you can store cues of things into. So rather than store into a playback, you can store cues into this window like I've done here. Okay, like so. I've got some cues in the window. So I could say it turns items 1 to 10 off. Now it doesn't matter how big the grid is. In my case here, I've got a 10 by 10 grid. It would just be turning on and off the first 10 items. So if I go back to 10 scene here, turning off executes 1 to 10. I then have the option of controlling executes in zones set by groups, and the final option is executes in rows. Now, if you're wanting more than 10 triggers, this is the one you're going to pick, and we introduce something called zoning in QuickQ. Now, at this point, the simplest way to think of this is that if I go back to my execute window up here, you'll notice on the left side, for each row in the window, it now has a zone. Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way down to 10 in the execute window. Each row has become a zone, so I have 10 items per zone. Quite simple, isn't it? Zone 1, here's the items here. If I wanted something in zone 4, I can record cues here. Okay, I could put something in them, and that's zone 4. Now, this box itself, the 10 scene contact box, can be ID'd. Very simple. ID 1 is going to control zone 1. If I set the ID of this to 2, it's going to be zone 2, row 2. Nice and simple. So I can distribute control around my venue. And of course, whatever it's going to control is whatever I put in this execute window. So I could split my rig up. If I come back to my software here, I could take, okay, well, let's say these two lights, if I switch them on and I go to my execute window, they could be, say, in one room. And then if I go back to the home screen and I take these lights, and of course they can be on the same universe, different universes, doesn't matter at all, it's just programming here. I can record that and they could be in another zone. So now I've got one zone, two zone, it could be rooms. You know, I physically could have a wall in the way here, and I could be triggering things so I could have different looks for each room across each one of my zones. How do you ID your box? Well, you go to your 10 scene window, and I've set to control in rows here. Now, on the software, you have a couple of ways of triggering 10 scene. So, as I said, you can use the gateway box. I can use a Genetics GM5 or 10 node to act as my gateway to get the items in. You can see in the software here, there's this option which is always enabled, enable rack sockets. I can plug in, if I'm on a QuickQ rack or a QuickQ DIN, I can plug in a wall plate directly into those ports there, and I can have it going that way. We also have an app. We have the 10 scene app for iOS and Android, phones or tablets. So if I've got my console sitting on the network, I can have the 10 scene app and I can have that remote in, so I don't even need to have these boxes here. I can have a tablet or a phone that I give to whoever's in the venue. There's your control of your 10 states. The 10 scene app is dumb. It does not do any programming. It's just playback of those items. So where we have the QuickQ remote app, which you can, yes, do all the programming on the console, we have a 10 scene app, which is very much just selecting these 10 items. It's not very dangerous there. They can't reprogram the system. And of course, we can have a 10 scene contact act as 10 scene buttons, or we can actually have it as like a contact trigger into the system as well. We'll talk about contact events in a moment. So I would enable gateways to allow this to work through my GN5. Now, just a word of warning there, on PC we don't allow any network input, so this is only going to work on a console. You can do the setup on the PC, but it won't work on the console. So on the console here, I've enabled the gateway. I'm literally going my 10 scene contact into the 10 scene port on my GN5 via network into the console, and this box is now triggering my items as selected there. The tensing contact box can work like a tensing button station. So it can work as a wall plate, and I can ID it. The way I do that, if I jump into the PC software here, you can see there's a set tensing panel zone IDs button. When I press that, it puts the system into program mode, gives me some instructions. If I press buttons 1, 6, 5 and 10 on the panel, so either on the contact or the panel, I press buttons 1, 6, 5, 10, like so. Then I can go in and I can press my ID. So I could press, say, 9. It would set this box as ID 9. This is now going to control row 9, or zone 9 as we call it. Okay. When I'm done, I toggle out the window and I'm back into normal programming again. We also have contact events. So I can use as a button station for tensing contact, or I can use it as contact triggers. So in contact events here, we can use this tensing contact box to take contact triggers in. Our rack, so our QuickQ rack, QuickQ DIN, and the gateway box and the nodes also have contact triggers, much like the tensing contact box, and we can use that for open-close contact triggering. So I could say on my QuickQ rack, maybe I've got some wall plates, they're doing their own thing as well separately, but I can maybe have a thing, okay, when I open and close a contact on the rack, maybe I want to have an emergency override or something. When the contact trigger connected to socket number 1 goes on and off, do an action. I could say turn on and off something. So turn on and off that playback there, set the action. And now when I open and close the contact across socket number 1 on the QuickQ DIN or rack, it would turn on and off as the contact opens and closes. Or I could do it off and on if I want to have it the other way around. So you can have contact triggers as part of the system as well. Just checking the chat here, there's a couple of questions coming there. Andre, you've got, do you need to reset the wall plate before changing the zone number? Only if you've set the ID on the box already. So yeah, good question there. So if you're in tensing mode, and I go to settings here, when I hit this button here, it will say press 1, 6, 5, 10 and press a number. It does give you a reset, so you can press 2, 7, 4, 9, which is the inside set of buttons here, to reset back to the factory ID. So if you've already set an ID, if you set an ID, maybe I've set this box to ID 3 or zone 3, and I want to reset it, I need to first do a reset, then program, put an ID in. But if you've just got this out of box, you don't need to reset, it's already at the factory ID, so you can just press the outside buttons and away you go. Not sure we had any other questions come in the chat as yet. Well, what else can we do with a QuickQ for installation purposes? Well, we can do things like joining zones. So as you saw in my execute window here, I've got these two queues here in 8 and 9, which are my 2 different rooms. You can join zones together. So in tensing here, you've got this join zones button. I had 8 and 9, I can join those together so that now if I was to execute the items, okay, I'm doing it via the window here, but if I was doing it remotely, it would trigger both of those together. So I could maybe have a room which I can separate, I can put a wall in and out of, so I can press the button on either side and it joins. And I can of course use a contact trigger to set that as well. So there you go, some features for QuickQ. It's not just for live programming, it's not just for theatre, not just for studio work, it's great for installation as well. Of course, all the usual program applies. In my execute window, I can have a cue and effect in, etc. So it's not just static cues here. With our QuickQ, we can have 10 of these zones, so essentially 100 different buttons, 10 different boxes or wall plates into the system. Many, many options there. So there you go. Hopefully that's rounded off QuickQ month for you fairly well, showing you sort of the full range of what you can do with a QuickQ. Do follow us next week. Do join us again Tuesday next week, where, as I say, we're looking at transitioning from QuickQ into MagicQ. So look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for joining us, and